who's got the greatest Christmas jumper on? Because we miss so much detail. We walk in with the Christmas is going to be crap filter, or Christmas has always been a bad time for me filter. And we can miss the details of the fresh moment itself.
What if there is a essence that you might be missing out on, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to not see it, to only have maybe a glimmer or two, even just for a moment. That's okay. You're not doing Christmas or any of the holidays wrong.
The reminder that you've still moved through the holiday period. You've still gone through to January. Let's get curious about what it was that moved you through the holiday season, regardless of what you felt, regardless of what you struggled with and experienced. Something kept the show running for you. So let's look there, because that's where the gold is.
This might sound really counterintuitive, but I don't want you to meditate, to focus on the words that I'm about to say. Instead, listen to them like you would listen to waves crashing on the shore or a crackling fire. Really, meditation is just an inner listening. This is a rich life realization meditation.
I think a lot of us can have some mental tension around the holidays. And that's just really been especially true for me lately. I've personally experienced some loss in my life recently and some family troubles, some family issues. And so I'm having a harder time this holiday, even though I usually enjoy holidays for the most part. And you're going to probably be hearing this after Thanksgiving. So if you celebrate Thanksgiving, you've eaten your turkey, you've had that food coma, you've recovered maybe a little bit from that. You've experienced some snide comments from some family members or two, and maybe it was a tough Thanksgiving for you. Sometimes people get into low feelings and depression and anxiety, and that might be true of Christmas too. So this is going to be an episode where we talk about that. We bring that out into the open and we talk about how you can reconnect with who you really are to bring yourself home for the holidays. To help me do that, I have a guest today. His name is James, and welcome, James.
Hi, thanks for having me, Rich.
Sure. Oh, it's a pleasure. James is a well-being coach. He's an author of a book. It's Not What You Think. It's a book that's designed to help you rediscover your well-being and experience more of it in your life. He trained as a wisdom and well-being consultancy coach, and he is an intuitive coach and mental health facilitator for Our Mental Health Rocks. I love that name, James.
It is a cool name.
It's a brand co-created with Julie Brown to make mental health simple for children and adults. And he was telling me that he loves the holidays. So this will be perfect. Like we have one person that might be struggling this holidays and I think in the previous years I've struggled in the holidays. And then we have another person who just loves it. So that'll be great. What do you like about the holidays, James?
Just there's so much, there's so much. It's hard to even kind of nail it down. It's there's something for me. There's something magical about the holidays. There's there's cozy nights in. There's a real love of like just home cooked kind of rustic food, the kind of food that you wouldn't eat in the middle of summer. And yet it feels like it's perfectly suited for those winter months. The whole decorating of the tree, like I've carried that with me since I was a child. Just the love of doing it, the excitement of doing it, of um, getting the tree itself. Like we've always had a real tree ever since I was a kid and growing up, and then now with my own home, like always had that living tree. There's been a real kind of excitement about getting that and then bringing it into the house and then getting into the attic and getting the many boxes of decorations out and opening the boxes and seeing the ornaments and the baubles that like I haven't seen for a whole year. Like, oh, I've forgotten about that one. And especially now, like there's and not just especially now, but also as a child, there there were baubles added each year, so there would be kind of memories for each one as well. So you kind of you just like, oh, this is the one that I got from my granny, for example, or this is the one to celebrate this occasion, or my goddaughter got me this as like Happy Christmas, Uncle James. So there's a real buzz around it of just unfolding, and there's never enough branches on the tree for all of them. So like sometimes there's some exclusivity of this one has to go on and this one doesn't. Right down to the tradition of um, like the first class of school where my me and my brother, we in our own individual classes, we were tasked with putting together something to go on top of the tree. So I had a snowman that was pretty much a toilet roll painted white and a cotton warble on top and like some ice stuck on. And when he did it, he had a Santa Claus of a similar kind of design. And there was always the competition for like who's went on the top of the tree last year and who's going on this year. And whoever's was on the top, the next one was on the second branch down. And I still, although I don't use those anymore, I still remember like when the tree topper comes out to go on the tree, I still remember that story of like, oh yeah, I remember this. Like who's went on and the kind of small little argument, a little bit of bickering around. No, it's definitely mine this year. So it holds a lot of magic for me. It's the Christmas movies. It feels like the time when you just switch off. And it feels like, and it really looks like as well, that all that happiness and magic is coming from Christmas itself, because there's decades of growing up around that. We're like, oh, it's Christmas. Can relax, can switch off. Especially, childhood days of 2 weeks off for Christmas. And it was back in a decade where we got a lot of snow in the UK as well. So there was a good chance there would be snow at that time and sledges and excitement. So yeah, it very much feels like I'm off. I've got loads of time off. I don't have to go anywhere. I'm at home. The tree's up. It's decorated. Christmas movies, snacks, great food. Let's go.
I love your description of the warmth of the holiday.
Yeah.
And I love Christmas usually. Usually I'm the one with like suits, and I've got like a whole Christmas suit, and
Wow.
I have ugly sweaters just since for each day pretty much. So it's a really wonderful holiday. And I love your description of how we should decorate. Like I saw this post that said we should decorate like joy threw up all over the place.
Yes. Yes.
And I'll speak to another side of of Christmas, another experience of the holiday and of Thanksgiving too, even though that one's probably past when you're watching this. And that's a feeling of pressure. There's a pressure around expectations. You're expected to be happy, to be cheerful, and sometimes that pressure can make it hard to be those things. And we struggle with that. And there's a lot of people who are going to be around their family, and they might not have as good of a relationship with their family. There might be a history of trauma. And so it can be re-triggering for people. And there's always some family dynamics. I think even in the perfect families, there's always going to be family dynamics that pop up because you're in that close proximity with each other. And so that can make it really hard. There's, seasonal affective disorder where we're not getting as much sunlight, we're not going outside, we feel confined, and we might feel warm and cuddly and see it as an opportunity, or we might feel isolated and disconnected. So that's kind of another side that we would want to speak to, because you share an understanding, and I also talk to this understanding of how the mind works that can help us reconnect with ourselves when we're feeling isolated, when we're feeling in that challenging place. So, James, let's pretend that there's a client that comes to you and they say, I'm really struggling during the holidays. What would you say to them that might help them understand it in a new way?
I think with how I work, I'd be very curious to explore that with them. Have they always struggled with the holidays? Comes to mind. Has that always been a thing? What is it they're struggling with? I never like to kind of go in with a preconceived idea of like how I can change that for them. Or like try and say, oh, you're struggling with the holidays. Well, that's just your thinking around it kind of thing. Because that, as we know, is just, that's never going to be helpful. It's going to be like, what do you mean it's just my thinking? Oh, well, let me tell you about thought and how your experience gets created. Because they're coming from a place where it looks real as though they're struggling. Okay. I feel like it would be an exploration. And within that exploration, there may be something that pops up that they glance over that is packed full of wisdom, that is packed full of the opportunity to maybe see it differently as well. And it would be through having a conversation with them that something would pop up like that. Oh, whoa, hang on, what was that just that last bit that you said? Tell me more about that. As I talk about this myself, Rich, like, yes, I love Christmas. And there was a particular year where it wasn't a great Christmas. And it was because my relationship had broken down and we were no longer together and it was coming up to Christmas. And I remember not being a fan of Christmas that year at all. Because I love Christmas. And one thing I loved about Christmas at the time was spending time with them. And all of a sudden that was gone. And so it was Christmas with almost like my family, which is great. And it was missing the other half of Christmas, which was going around to see her family and spend time with her as well. And I carried that for I think the rest of the year as well. Just like, oh, there's another Christmas coming up, and like, screw Christmas this year as well. I'm not entertaining that either. And although this was kind of pre three principles, what I did see around that was that Christmas is Christmas, and I'm carrying an experience of Christmas with me into the next year. And I could take last year's experience of Christmas into this new Christmas with me. But how's that serving me? Like, how's that helping? Like, if Christmas doesn't set the tone for how it's going to be, then what if that's down to me to go in with a fresh experience, to put what happened aside and see what this new Christmas is going to bring, see what kind of new experience I can have around it as well, with more of an open mind. It looks to me like we are very much designed, not just with Christmas, we are very much designed to move through any experience and to heal from that experience as well. And we're supported in the experience that we have. So rather than taking that experience with me, it's a curiosity of, rather than saying, well, this Christmas is going to be the same as last Christmas, I wonder what this Christmas is going to bring. I wonder where I am now compared to where I was before.
Yeah, it sounds like you can create that openness. It's not even something that you create, it's where you're enlivening your thought system. Are you enlivening the thoughts that are like, oh crap, this holiday's coming around again, it's going to be the exact same? Because I think a lot of what we're trying to do is anticipate. We're trying to guess what we're going to feel like on that day.
Yeah.
What it's going to be like. And that anticipation does two things. It makes us suffer in the moment, and it also can kind of determine how we interact with other people on that day of. If we're coming in with all these preconceived ideas and judgments, then that might be how we're going to show up. Maybe not. Who knows? So it's exploring an openness to what's different, a new experience, because it might be the exact same experience. Your dad or mom or brother might say something that they always say to you. And it's like, oh, that happened again, but your experience of it can be different. They said that they can't believe I went off and joined the army, or I went and dropped out of school or something like that. It's there's so many judgments that they can have, and it's going to be different for each person, but your experience of it doesn't have to be the same this year.
Absolutely. And you know what? If somebody came to me and said, I'm really struggling with Christmas, I struggle with Christmas, behind that there's a curiosity of, okay, so what's brought you to bring that to me today? Like, is there something behind this? I don't want to struggle at Christmas. No, is it that call out for, oh, I really struggle for Christmas? Behind it, I don't want to struggle for Christmas anymore. You know, if they're coming for a conversation, then it's their own curiosity. I want to see something more. I want to see something different, maybe. I don't want to be suffering over Christmas. And so if we can unlock that curiosity, just as you and I are talking as well, that curiosity to go in to see, well, could I see it differently? Like you say, those classic family examples of judgment and our own minds, you know, our own minds as energy efficient machines will predict. They will predict. They will make assumptions. Well, based on last Christmas, when Uncle Terry said that, there's a fair chance he's going to do the same. He does it every year. And without us even being aware of that, our mind's already tuning in. Look out for Uncle Terry, look out for Uncle Terry, look out for Uncle Terry. Don't worry about all the flesh stuff that's happening. Let's just keep an eye on him because he's going to say something so we can react the way we reacted last year as well. We don't see it because it looks real. You know, for me, before I came across what you and I talk about with this understanding, Rich, any judgments like that, I would take into a situation and be looking for it all the time because it looked to me like that's how life is and that's how it works and that's Uncle Terry right there and that's who he is. I don't even have an Uncle Terry, so I don't know where that name's come from. But absolutely, if there's one thing I've seen around in-laws and parents and family, with those perceptions and those judgments when we go into a situation, and we know that person's going to be there, is where our mind goes with it. Like I have an in-law who is so opinionated and has so much to say and so kind of like it's my way or nothing and this is what's going on with the news and this is what's going to happen in the world kind of thing. And this is how I see the world. That it got to a point where I just didn't want to see them. And I didn't want to spend any time with them. And I could feel at any family event the build up of judgments and like I don't want to end up sat with them, I don't want to see them, I don't talk to them because if I do, then they're going to infuriate me and everybody's going to roll their eyes and nobody wants to spend any time with them and they're just a horrid person. And what I then saw on one occasion was that they're always going to, again, this is an assumption I'm seeing for myself, but let's go with it. They're always going to be like that. They're always going to have this strong opinion and this my way or the highway and this like whatever the media tells me, that's what's going to happen. And I'm really going to kind of dig into that. But there was this one occasion where I was sat with them. It was a beautiful summer's day. And I was enjoying the sun. And I just happened to be sat there and the rest of the family members were just doing other things. And off they went on a tangent. I think it was during the time of Russia invading Ukraine, and off they went talking about Russia and how it was and blah, blah, blah. And on this occasion, I just realized that I had a choice here of I could either get really kind of frustrated and have to, what's the word? Ignore them, can't just delete everything they were saying. Or I could go in with an openness and ask questions. and understand where this is coming from. And I just began to ask, like, well, so where does that information, where do you get that information from? And how come you see it that way? And this, that, and the other. And the more I talked, I saw that the only person suffering in this conversation in the past is me. The only one that's bringing all the angst or the pressure or the stress about having to spend time with them is me, because this person shows up as themselves and they're not wound up about it. They're just talking. They're just giving an opinion. So why am I using all of this energy to get frustrated with them? Why am I using all this energy before I've even seen them? It's like, I don't want to see them. Why are we having to go? Can't stand this person. They do my head in. I want to avoid them as much as possible. Why am I doing that? Because that's just such a waste of energy. Why don't I just go, enjoy the moment, and then just get curious about what they're saying? With nothing on it, with no judgment on it either. Let's just listen. And it changed the whole game for me. There was a lightness around me that was so different to how it used to be. Because actually, it just got to a point where I don't have anything on this. I don't really care what you have to say or what you have to bring. I'm just quite happy to listen. Maybe there'll be something helpful in there that I can point you to. Or maybe underneath that, there is something really interesting to talk more about and to see it differently rather than just blocking completely. So when it comes to the likes of Uncle Terry, who I've completely made up, I think there is an opportunity to see where that person's coming from. I think when people vent about stuff, they must have a lot on their mind to do that. Like, poor made up Uncle Terry must be really suffering at the party if he's just got nothing great to say and he's trying to drag everybody else down. But the only person that's really suffering is him. Maybe it would be helpful just to kind of not buy into it and just see what happens next. See if Uncle Terry can be the fun-loving soul that we hope he could be.
That's one of the things, is we can start to see the inconsistencies.
Yeah.
When there's the time that Uncle Terry said that the thing that he always says about the government and aliens and how you're never fashionable or something like that.
Yeah.
And there are times when he says that and you just kind of brush it off, right?
Yeah.
And then there are times that he says that and you get clenched. You get caught into it. You get defensive. You get judgmental. And that's just something to notice, like you said. Notice that you're doing that. And also what you were talking about, you're bringing this open listening, this curious listening to the conversation. It's also so wonderful to bring that curious listening to yourself, to your thoughts, to the workings of your own mind that's usually invisible to you, that you just kind of take for granted usually. And then you just fall into the rabbit hole of, oh, that Uncle Terry, he's but then just it's almost like being that observer where you're running an experiment. It's like you are studying it rather than in it.
Yeah.
And when people study things, they don't actively get involved, right? Like you're not allowed to get involved. Otherwise, you're going to change the results of the experiments. You have to be a neutral observer in order to be in that place of observation. So you can come to it kind of like that, kind of like a paleontologist, like George Pransky talks about. Be a paleontologist with Uncle Terry and with yourself.
Yeah. 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 What if you go into it like you've never met Uncle Terry before?
Mm-hmm.
No beliefs about him. A childlike curiosity, like, who's this guy? And what's his game? In the same way as if you've never watched a movie before, maybe there's a movie out and you haven't seen it yet. When you go in and watch that with intrigue and curiosity, like, what's this movie about? What is it? I've never watched a trailer. I don't know any reviews about it. Let's just see where it takes us. You know, what if Uncle Terry could be that new movie we've never seen before? Why don't we just start again? Just do a blank canvas and see where it goes. And from there, what if we then notice where the old Uncle Terry thinking comes up again? That discomfort, like, we knew we'd do that, didn't we? What if we could just let that flow through us and come back to, okay, but let's just start again. Let's blank canvas this guy. And see if there's a different experience to be had. Because where we place our attention, it's going to bring all of that to life. If we want to see a new version, it's being curious enough to say, okay, if that's just a judgment, curious question, if that is just a judgment that I've carried for all this time, then let's, like you say, let's experiment with it. Okay? Because if that's true, then that means this judgment is temporary and there's something different I can see that could change into something else. So let's sit and listen and let's see where we go with it.
That's exactly what I mean by home for the holidays. It's not home physically. It's not being physically in your home with your family. It's being spiritually home.
Yeah.
It's being mentally home, not caught up in these distorted thoughts that are taking you down a rabbit hole that doesn't feel good. And it brings you away from your wellness, your wholeness, your connection with yourself and others. What if we could be home for the holidays more, in that space of expansiveness, aligned with who we are, who we really are, not who we think we are, but that source of joy and connection and love. It might seem so far away for some.
Yeah.
And we get that. We understand that. I've been there. I really have. And it's right there. You're just covering it up. You're just blinding yourself to it. It's a second away, a thought away. And it's something that you don't have to create. It's not something that you have to use your discipline to, okay, I'm going to be home for the holidays this year, and I'm forcing myself in my home, and I'm going to stay there, and if I lean to the left a little bit, nope, we're right back in the center. Life Life in the mind tends not to work that way, especially as you contract around it. But if you flow with it, if you're curious with it, if you just kind of are open to a new experience, like you're talking about, James, a brand new experience of what's really there. And letting go just a little bit of all of the preconceptions that you have about how it's supposed to be, how it's going to be, how it should be. Maybe it'll change something.
Yeah.
I hope so. I really do. Because the holidays, when we were kids, at least for a lot of us, we've had these incredible experiences. And maybe you celebrate Christmas, or maybe you don't. Maybe you celebrate another holiday. But we've had these magical experiences where we believed in something greater than ourselves, where we were connected, we received and gave gifts. And that childlike spirit, I feel like, is the true soul of the holiday that we've innocently covered up. I loved your description of it when you were a kid. I loved that. The fighting over whose would be on the top and figuring out who was last year. I think it was you. No, it was me. I think it's my turn to go this year. And then
Yeah. It's helpful. It can be helpful to know that, like you say, it's covered up.
yeah.
I think that's really helpful. Like the curtain's been pulled across. It doesn't mean that it's gone. And whatever holiday celebration it is, or whatever holiday occasion it is, that childlike curiosity is still there. That's soul of us is still there. That spirit of us is still there. Home is still there. It just gets covered up with what we've got caught up in as well. But no matter how the holiday experience goes, there's always a little glimmer that will come up from us, and a little like, let's stick with how that childlikeness will pop up. Like, even if we carry past holiday experiences into that environment with us, even if we walk in with all our prejudgments about Uncle Terry and all the gang, there's always a moment where somebody will connect with us and draw that back out again. And we can miss that because we're so caught up in how it's going to look. But how many times have we in life been caught up in something, and somebody's shown up in the moment that's helped us? Somebody's shown up in the moment that's connected with us and pulled us out of our thinking for that one moment and drawn out that childlike, that soul, and you felt a moment of calm or a moment of settlement. We're designed to bounce back to that. It's just that it looks to me like we haven't always been shown that. We've been shown ideas of how, I mean, if we stick with the holidays and Christmas, we've been shown ideas of how Christmas is. It's family stress. It's everyone panicking about, is there enough turkey? When is there ever not enough turkey? There's always turkey available. no, what are the kids going to think of the presents? Well, a lot of kids are more interested in the boxes when the little kids as they are with than the toys themselves. This, you know, Christmas is about expectations and all this, that, and the other. But instead of getting caught up in the idea of Christmas, it's seeing the magic of it that lives within us. The like you say, Rich, the home that we all have that gets covered up by ideas of Christmas. Like the magic is there. And even if we've only had a glimmer of it on that holiday day, it's still showing up for us. Like you say, even if we go into Christmas curious and we still get caught up in stuff, those moments of curiosity is us as us. It's us in that childlike curiosity of like, oh, wow. What if we use our senses for the moment rather than using them to just pay more attention to the preconceived judgments of the past? And we notice where we are when we walk into that family room. We maybe notice what they've done with the tree this time, how much joy has exploded on their tree this year. Who's got the greatest Christmas jumper on? Because we miss so much detail. We walk in with the Christmas is going to be crap filter, or Christmas has always been a bad time for me filter. And we can miss the details of the fresh moment itself, as we talk about. And if we reflect on past experiences, can we see that there have been moments of joy despite our take on how the holiday is? Because in those moments, when we pay more attention to those moments, it starts to open up a little bit more about who we really are. It starts to remind us a little bit more about home. And it starts to assure us that that space is still there. And it may only start off as a tiny little spark. But when we allow that spark to grow a little bit more, we start to see a little bit more of it as well. And that doesn't mean that we're not still going to get caught up. But it shows us there's a potential for a different experience.
Yeah. And it's not like the thoughts aren't still going to be there. This is like the art of banishing thoughts, or pushing away thoughts. It's just where you're paying attention, like you said. Are you looking towards those thoughts and seeing them as the truth and as real? Or are you curious that something new might show up and looking towards something new, a possibility? Christmas, it means, or any of these holidays, it means a lot of different things to different people. And all of that is learned. It's been learned. It's been taught. It's a concept, it's an idea. What if whatever you've learned, whatever you just have a habit of creating in that experience, what if that's not the truth? What if there is a essence that you might be missing out on, and that's okay. It's okay to not see it, to only have maybe a glimmer or two, even just for a moment. That's okay. You're not doing Christmas or any of the holidays wrong. But that's really important to question, to be suspicious. Because there's a lot of people who have a lot of trauma around it. And yes, that was a real experience then. And what if there can be a little bit different of an experience, even if it's not, it doesn't have to be a 180. That's the thing. This doesn't have to be a 180 kind of thing. I think our brains and our minds want to create the complete flip where it's, oh, last Christmas was crap. Well, this Christmas will be incredible.
Yeah.
Or even, so it thinks that it should create the flip, or it just sees that as completely impossible and unachievable. And so even if we make a little bit of progress, it doesn't freaking matter.
Yeah.
But it does. And we can look to that, and we can look to those glimmers that you're talking about. We can look to the essence coming through the hard shell of thought that we've covered up that essence with. We can look past that.
Yeah.
That can, and even just if it's just a little bit more home, that's okay.
We don't need to get the holidays right. There's nothing to get with it. There's nothing, like, you just said something along the lines of, like, you can't get the holidays wrong. And you don't need to make them right. If it makes sense, on the day or leading up to it to have moments of sadness, whether it's from an experience that you've had or from someone that just isn't there on Christmas this year, it's 100% okay to feel that. 100%. It can actually be so much more helpful than holding it in and pretending that Christmas has to be right. Like you say, Rich, it's going to be an incredible Christmas this year. Okay, this person's not here. It's going to be fine. We're holding on to it, and it can, to feel it, to sit and feel it, can be so much more powerful and so much more helpful to let that do what it needs to do as well, because it ain't going to stick around forever. We can't cry forever. We know that. And feeling it is healing it. And allows us a bit of space to maybe just settle back into the moment of where we are and who we are now. And maybe there's a little glimmer there. And maybe we fall back into sadness. And that's okay. But holding on to it and trying to change it when we're not releasing it, we build up even more. And that's where we can get really caught up with, like, I hate Christmas, I can't deal with it. Maybe what we hate is that we're holding on to it when actually it would be so much more helpful to let it go. And I want to say from my own experience that when I do let go, there's not a single human being in the room that just stands there and goes, just pack it in, what are you doing? There's a connection. There's somebody that will just come and just be with you while you settle, instead of having to hold it in and try and be the person that you don't want to be right now, because Christmas is a whatever kind of holidays even, or whatever kind of time that they are for you.
This one will be very different for me. I'm filming this before Thanksgiving. And of course, we're doing Thanksgiving without someone in our family that recently passed. And it will be a very different Christmas because I have a baby too. Like,
Yeah.
it's her first Thanksgiving, first Christmas, first all of that. So there's a magic to that too. And so I'm trying to be so graceful with myself and with my family. And that's all you can do. That's all you can do. And and just celebrate in the ways that you can celebrate, and gnash your teeth in the ways that you need to gnash your teeth in, and and share in the ways that you can share. And try not to anticipate it. Try not to predict how you're going to feel on the day of, or the day before, or the day after, because you have no idea.
Mm.
You might be okay.
Yeah.
You might have a great time. But even if you don't, that's fine.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest gifts of this understanding. I was listening to someone say that they had an experience where they felt very low, but they felt an expansiveness that was within for the first time. It didn't take them over, and they could be with that, and they weren't afraid of it. And that's what's possible. That's what's on offer. It's not roses all the time. Life isn't roses all the time. I mean, it's pretty amazing when you can let go of your thinking in the moment and ascend to a new level of consciousness and live in
Yep.
that. But that's not the whole picture. And there's going to be moments of low, and there's going to be moments of high, and that's just how we work. And when we understand that, we can even embrace that.
Yeah.
That's when transformations happen. That's when we can have a completely new experience, even if we're in an old story.
Yeah. Yeah. Just going with what is. Even sadness is a celebration. When we're feeling sadness for someone that's missing, we are acknowledging they are there. We're acknowledging them. We're still celebrating them. We're still recognizing them. It doesn't all have to be. It doesn't all have to be joyous to celebrate. The fact we are feeling what we are feeling just is bringing that connection to what was and what is. Mixed, as you say, with the moments of joy. They're all moments, and they're all mixed, and they all change. We can really look at like it was nothing but sadness, and yet within that sadness there will have been moments of joy. There will have been memorable moments of almost smiling while the smiling through the tears, and not to get through it and not to change the experience, but just to recognize like, oh my goodness, we can have happy moments about people that then lead into sadness as we just kind of feel that as well. It's all, like I said, it's all allowed. It's all recognition. And so it can all be a celebration.
That's beautiful. The holidays, I think, are a celebration in their essence. It's a celebration of life and of love and family, whatever that means to you. You know, it might not be a traditional family. It might be chosen family. It might be blood relatives. That's fine. it's a celebration of those things and more, and of yourself. It's giving, it's receiving, it's gratitude. We have a new year after that. That's crazy that we switched to another year, and
Yeah.
the year comes to a close, and there's a fresh start in that. That's kind of magical and wonderful.
Mm.
And people look back and they want to change, and they want to do something new, and they create goals for themselves, New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
This can be such an incredible time. And that is something we can see. We can relax into. We can release mental tension around. This is releasing mental tension around the holidays. When you do that, you see them for what they really are. You see them from that childlike state.
Yeah.
So, James, if you were talking to that person and you were to try and encapsulate or maybe add something to what we've already spoken about, what would you say?
I would give full permission to feel whatever needs to be felt. It's all allowed. I would invite them to notice the small moments of glimmer as and when they appear. And when they appear, just be a little more curious. We're not asking you to change the entire world in a day. We're not Santa delivering all those presents around the world in a day. Purely inviting you to, at your own pace, uncover that gold inside that you've had for all the time you struggled. That's the thing. For all the time you struggled with Christmas, the reminder that you've still moved through the holiday period. You've still gone through to January. Let's get curious about what it was that moved you through the holiday season. Regardless of what you felt, regardless of what you struggled with and experienced, something kept the show running for you. So let's look there, because that's where the gold is. And that's the one thing I know I was overlooking before I came across the three principles understanding. Like, it was glanced over, but when I look back, it got me through my sad Christmas. It's got me through many, many perceived difficult situations and difficult circumstances by just helping to clear that system, bring some fresh thought in, or just bring the tears or the frustration just so it clears, and like, oh, this doesn't look as bad as it did. Wow. Okay. I've moved through that on reflection. I've moved through it. So yeah, let's look there. Let's get childlike and let's look at that home that we all have. Let's explore that. Doors open, come in, have a cup of tea, and let's see what it's got to offer instead of the ideas.
Mm. Wow. And I think too that it's not just about the holidays. It's not just about Christmas. Like, you have that gold within inside you all of the time, all year round. I love that you mentioned just noticing what keeps you moving through because you've survived every Christmas.
Yeah. And you know what? If you've listened to this and you felt that in that moment at any point, then just take note of that. That's you. Just waking back up again.
Yeah.
Anything in what Rich and I have talked about that's been helpful, you've unlocked yourself. You're already seeing it a little bit differently. And you're so right, Rich, that we don't need to wait for the holidays before we start going, right, let's get curious. Let's see where this gold is coming from. We can literally get curious right now in the world. Okay. Is it true what James and Rich have been pointing to? Where can I see it for myself? Go there.
And if you would like to get curious with a guide, it sounds like James is a coach. And if you've listened to what he said and would like to connect with him, how can they reach out to you?
You can catch me through email. So that's hello@mentalhealthrocks.com. It's probably the easiest way to reach out. You can catch me on social media. So I'm across TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook.
Well, thank you for coming on to the podcast today. I really appreciate your time and your wisdom and your presence.
And thank you to you too. It's been an absolute pleasure joining you for this exploration.
And happy holidays. If you celebrate, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
This is the Releasing Mental Tension podcast with Rich Life. I'm on a mission to help people release their mental tension because I know that it helps them to be more capable, creative, and compassionate human beings. And I need your help. Please like, comment, subscribe. If you'd like more resources, visit richliferealization.com. Your vibrant life is a single thought away.